The next thing I want to take a look at when approaching a logo design project, and is probably one of the most important aspects of any logo project, is the color. Color can make or break your design. You want to select colors that work well with the personality of the company you're designing a visual identity for. And you want them to align with an established equity if that company has been around for a while, for example, and you want it to reinforce the core concept and help imbue emotion and visual interest into your design. Now, that's going to shift from one project to the next. The project you see right now is for a financial investment fund. And this is a more reserved client, obviously. We're not talking about an entertainment park, for an example. So the colors here are very reserved, but they are appropriate for the given target audience and for the given for who the client is and what it is. So this is what I used on Commodore. It's just a dark blue, a nice kind of earthy type of dirty orange, and this slate blue here. So a very reserved color palette in terms of this client. Now a good polar opposite of this would be the next project. And once again, it's Exhume It. It was the social identity project I worked on. And because it's social identity, it's all about people interacting with each other. And whenever you have a group of people, you have all kinds of personalities, all kinds of characteristics. And because of that, I use color to reflect that type of diversity. It brings diversity into this mark in terms of the use of color here. And I carried that through to the iconography I created for this design direction. The next project is called VSpread. Now this is a company that populates sports metadata in terms of the statistical analytics drawn from various sports, and it actually feeds it to a system where people can use it for gambling purposes, of all things. And so they wanted some fun, but they didn't want it too juvenile. So this still has a somewhat sophisticated flair to it, but the color with red being in there is definitely an identifier to capture people's attention. The next project was for a small town in Louisiana. It was to brand the whole town. So this actually played off of their heritage quite a bit, both in terms of the graphics I used, but mainly due in regards to the style of the coloring is all based off of that area and what's associated with that area. There's a lot of trees there, so we wanted a lot of browns in it, a lot of oak trees, so we brought some gold into it as well. This was one direction for that, and with this specific system, we created a municipal logo for basically the city and a tourism logo that also represents the city but is strictly used for tourism purposes. On the second approach, one of the additional approaches for this specific project is I kind of harken back to their history. It was founded by a Spanish explorer, and that's who this illustration specifically references, is this Spanish explorer. But the colors I used on this are kind of representative of that area where he settled, with these blues and these more subtle tones of tan in the coloring. Also, one thing you want to keep in mind when you work on coloring is how the logo is going to be used. So, for example, this CPA, they cater specifically to vineyards. In Oregon, where I come from, there's a lot of wineries around the Willamette Valley where I live, and they wanted to cater to that market in terms of their CPA services, so their name reflects that, the wine CPAs, and I came up with this mark to kind of capitalize on a clever concept that plays along with their message and marketing effort. Now, when I colored this, I obviously wanted to use colors that represent wine, but I had to keep in mind how this specific mark was going to work when it appeared on a colored background. So the key to this, even though white is technically said to be the absence of all color, in this case, I needed to make sure white was actually part of the color scheme so that it would work on any type of background, regardless of how they used it. So that's how you want to think of color when you're working on logo concepts.